Right now, the Doomsday Clock stands at 85 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been in all of human history. Russia is at war in Europe. The Middle East is on fire. China is circling Taiwan with warships every single week. 40% of Americans now believe World War III will happen within 5 years. So what if it actually starts? Tomorrow morning. Not in 5 years, not eventually. Tomorrow, when you wake up. What does the first 24 hours look like? Who fights who? What happens to the global economy in the first week? And most importantly, does anyone actually survive this? The experts have actually run these scenarios. The results are terrifying. This is what if. And today, World War III just started. Stay with us, because this scenario is closer to reality than most people realize. Everything you're about to see is based on real military analysis and current data, and it starts with a single shot, in a place most people have never heard of. It doesn't start with a declaration of war. Wars never start that way anymore. It starts with what military analysts call an accidental cascade. A Russian missile, possibly targeting Ukraine, crosses into Polish airspace. Poland is a NATO member. Article 5 of the NATO treaty is now triggered. An attack on one NATO member is an attack on all 32 NATO members, simultaneously. Within hours, NATO emergency meetings begin in Brussels. The US president is woken at 3 a.m. with the most consequential phone call in history. At the same moment, China watches and begins moving warships toward Taiwan. They see US attention split between Europe and Asia. The window is open. North Korea fires missiles into the Sea of Japan. Testing, probing, watching. Iran moves to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of world oil flows. In 6 hours, 4 simultaneous crises are unfolding across 3 continents. This is exactly what military planners feared most. The dual front nightmare. America cannot fight in Europe and the Pacific simultaneously at full capacity. Something will have to give, and everyone knows it, including China. Now, let's talk about what happens in the cyber domain, because this war is different. Within the first hour, cyber attacks hit power grids across Europe and North America. Stock markets crash before they can even open for trading. Circuit breakers activate. GPS systems, used by everything from planes to delivery trucks, begin glitching. Hospital systems, water treatment, nuclear plants, all targeted simultaneously. The first casualty of this war isn't a soldier, it's civilian infrastructure everywhere. Now, back to the military picture. Russia, sensing NATO's division, launches the biggest offensive in years. NATO responds by sending troops directly into Ukraine for the first time. This is the line Russia said would mean direct conflict between nuclear powers. Putin raises Russia's nuclear readiness to the highest level ever. Washington raises US nuclear alert status in response. The world holds its breath. In the Taiwan Strait, Chinese forces begin what looks like a full naval blockade. Taiwan semiconductor factories, which make 90% of world's advanced chips, go dark. Every smartphone, every car, every hospital device, the global chip shortage begins now. By the end of day 1, the world has changed beyond recognition already. And the hardest question hasn't even been asked yet, the nuclear question. We'll get to that, but first, what does this mean for ordinary people? For you? Because World War III isn't just a military event, it's a civilian catastrophe, and it starts affecting you within the first 48 hours. You wake up on day 2. Your phone works, barely. The news is overwhelming. You try to fill up your gas tank. The line stretches around the block already, because Hormuz is blocked. 20% of world oil supply just vanished overnight. Oil prices double in 48 hours. Gas prices follow immediately. You go to the grocery store. The shelves are already half empty by morning, not because food doesn't exist, because supply chains run on just-in-time logistics. Modern supermarkets carry only 3 days of food inventory at any time. 3 days. When panic buying begins, which it already has, 3 days becomes 3 hours. Your bank account is technically fine, but ATMs are running low on cash everywhere. Online banking? The cyber attacks hit financial systems on day 1 already. The stock market, in countries still open, is in freefall. Circuit breakers fire constantly. Markets in New York, London, and Tokyo lose 30% in the first 48 hours of trading. Your retirement savings, if you have them, have just lost a third of their value. Inflation begins immediately. Everything gets more expensive by the hour. Companies with overseas supply chains begin to freeze all orders globally. Apple, Toyota, Samsung. Every major global manufacturer stops production because their supply chains cross war zones or are controlled by warring parties. By day 3, governments begin emergency rationing of fuel and food. Some countries introduce price controls. Others see black markets explode overnight. The internet still works, mostly, but social media is chaos and disinformation. Governments begin blocking social platforms to prevent panic and coordination. In countries close to conflict, mandatory evacuations begin in border regions. In the United States, the National Guard is activated in all 50 states simultaneously. Military-aged citizens start receiving letters. The draft hasn't happened since Vietnam. Hospitals prepare for mass casualty protocols they've never had to use before. Blood banks issue emergency calls for donations. Lines form immediately everywhere. Schools close in most affected countries. Parents don't know what to tell their children. The psychological toll begins immediately, and it is massive. Suicide hotlines are overwhelmed. Therapy wait lists balloon to months overnight. But here's the really difficult question, the one governments are wrestling with. How do you stop a world war once it's already started? History doesn't have good answers. World War I was supposed to be over by Christmas. It lasted 4 years and 17 million died. World War II was supposed to be contained. It consumed the entire planet for 6 years. The difference with World War III is the weapons, and one weapon changes everything. We need to talk about nuclear weapons, because this is where it gets truly existential. Let's talk about nuclear weapons, not to scare you, but because ignoring it is worse. Right now, the world has approximately 12,000 nuclear warheads. Russia has 5,500. The United States has 5,500. Combined, enough to destroy Earth many times. But here's the thing, most people don't understand about nuclear weapons in 2026. The most likely nuclear scenario isn't a full exchange, it's a tactical nuclear weapon. Smaller nuclear weapons, designed for battlefield use, not city destruction. Russia has over 2,000 tactical nuclear warheads, more than anyone else on Earth. Putin has repeatedly hinted at using them if NATO crosses certain red lines, and NATO troops entering Ukraine, which we said happens in this scenario, is one of those lines. So the question becomes, what happens if Russia uses even one tactical nuclear weapon? The answer from every military analyst is nobody knows, because it's never happened. Does NATO retaliate with conventional weapons? With nuclear weapons? Do nothing. Each choice leads to a completely different world. None of them are good worlds. If NATO retaliates with nuclear weapons, the escalation ladder begins climbing, and nobody, not even the people with their fingers on the buttons, knows where it stops. A full nuclear exchange between Russia and the United States would kill 5 billion people, not from the blast alone, from the nuclear winter that follows for years afterward. Smoke and soot would block the sun for years. Crops worldwide would fail completely. This is not science fiction. It's the conclusion of every major nuclear winter study ever done. But here's the reason this scenario hasn't happened yet, and why it might not. Mutually assured destruction. MAD. The doctrine that has kept nuclear peace since 1945. If I use nuclear weapons, you use nuclear weapons, we both die. So neither of us does. This logic has held for 80 years, even through Korea, Vietnam, the Cuban Missile Crisis. But MAD requires rational leaders making rational decisions under extreme pressure. In a fast-moving, multi-front world war, those conditions are not guaranteed at all. The most dangerous moment isn't when a leader wants to use nuclear weapons, it's when a leader believes the other side is about to use them first. Launch on warning, use it or lose it, the logic that makes accidents far more likely. In 1983, a Soviet officer named Petrov received a false alarm of a U.S. nuclear strike. He decided it was a malfunction. He was right. He saved the world. Alone, in a World War III scenario. How many Petrov moments would there be? And would we be that lucky? Most experts believe a full nuclear exchange remains unlikely, even in this scenario, because rational self-interest, even in wartime, still works most of the time. The more likely outcome is a brutal, devastating conventional war lasting years, and that outcome, as terrible as it sounds, is actually the best case scenario here. Let's step back, because we've been in the nightmare. Now let's think about the exit. History shows us that no war, however terrible, lasts forever. Eventually, they end. The question is, what world comes out the other side, and what do we learn from it? After World War II, the world built the United Nations, the IMF, the World Bank, the most comprehensive peace architecture in human history, born from the worst war. A World War III, if survived, would likely produce something even more significant. The economic pain alone would force global cooperation on a scale never seen before. Because the cost of not cooperating, as World War III just proved, is simply too high. The Ukraine war, still ongoing in 2026, has already dramatically accelerated European unity. A world war would do the same on a planetary scale. Pain creates cooperation, but let's be honest about the cost. Even a limited World War III would be devastating. Tens of millions dead, economies destroyed, generations of trauma, no silver lining enough. The only truly good outcome is the one where this war never starts in the first place. And right now, in 2026, we're still in that window. The war hasn't started. Every diplomatic effort, every negotiation, every de-escalation step matters enormously. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, as close as we've ever been, was resolved through diplomacy. Kennedy and Khrushchev found a way out, even when the generals said there was none. History's lesson is clear. Wars don't have to happen. They require human choices to start, and human choices can also stop them before they start. That choice exists right now. Leave your thoughts. Do you think World War III is inevitable, or can it still be stopped? That's What If. We ask the questions the world needs to think about, not just fear. Stay informed, because an educated public is the best defense against war there is. If this video made you think, share it, because this conversation needs to happen everywhere. Hit the like button. It helps more people find this content when they're searching. Subscribe and ring the bell. New what if scenarios every single week. Next week, what if AI became smarter than all humans combined? That episode has enormous implications for how this war would even be fought today. We also have full episodes on the ice melt scenario and the global warming series. Until then, support diplomacy. Vote for leaders who prefer negotiation over conflict. This is What If, and the best what if is the world where this never happens at all.